Good morning. Welcome to the Art of Fire, Glassblowing Studio. We're coming up on the 4th of July weekend, and it's going to be 3 cheers for the red, white, and blue. Or as Todd and I say, be kind to your web-footed friend, for that dog may be somebody's mother. Don't worry, you'll hear it again. Okay, so anyway, patriotic theme today with the red, white, and blue, and you can see what we got on display. We got a red dragon. Ooh, that sounds like a great movie. And who wrote the book, The Red Dragon? Okay, we'll leave that until somebody else shows up. We'll have people guessing, okay? We've got red and blue fish. We've got 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. We've got white vases, we've got blue vases, we've got red jack in the pulpits, and we've got all kinds of choices right here. So, welcome aboard, and we'll get started on this. Good morning, David Hogan. Okay, and Jennifer Kinsler. Good morning, and Brian. All right, we're getting a crowd here. Barbara's online instead of in the studio this week. But we have another studio guest this week. This is Keith Daly. Hello, Keith. And Keith's spent a lot of time here at the Art of Fire over the years, and he's back to visit us, and we're really glad to have him. So, as we mentioned last week, we're starting to open back up. Get in touch with us by phone or email, and we'll talk to you about what we need and what you need to do to get in here and still be safe, because that nasty bug is still out there. All right, so on our program today, Josh is going to start us off with a couple of star vases, one in blue and one in red. We'll have a fan vase. We'll have a Pilsner. We're going to have, yes, I need to talk about Rufus too. Yes, Keith and dog, okay? And I have to ask Keith, is damn part of his name? It is. When Keith posts on Facebook, he's always showing himself with damn Rufus. And so maybe we'll get a background on that story before too awful long. But there's Keith Daly and damn Rufus. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. We got the list covered. And let me see if they gave me my cheat sheet. Normally they tell me who's won this. This outlier, this green and white, is not part of the red, white, and blue theme, but that's our giveaway from last week. And let's see if I can find out who won that. Theta, who won the flask from last week?
Patricia Van Wee.
Patricia Van Wee. I'm not sure if she's here with us, but you'll find out sooner or later. Okay, so let's go on back down here and see what's going on. Make that pup a bowl. Okay. Well, if we run out of things to do, we've already got a request on here to make that doggy a bowl. So we can do a red, white, and blue bowl later on. A Rufus bowl. Okay. So, the stars are out tonight on the Marver. Let's see if we can get close enough to get a good view. There you go. So these are Murini. Murini are like a long cane that's been chopped into short pieces. So if you can imagine all of those plus maybe about, 60 more on one long stick of glass and then chopped up into small pieces. So let's talk to Josh a little bit about that in a moment here. Josh seems to have fled the scene. Everybody's making like Elvis today and leaving the building. Good morning, Aislinn. Good morning, Sharon. Okay, yes, it is very hot in here today, Jennifer, and we do plan on staying hydrated. And all of those units along the wall release a lot of heat. Josh, how did you form the stars? Were they put in a mold, or did you do it by hand to get the grooves between them?
Those I did by hand. We tried using a mold. We initially tried using this guy, but it was just too small. I couldn't get enough white in it to get it to fill out. So it was just easier to almost made like we made a starfish earlier on. Just crease it, kind of exaggerate those explodes, and then scatter clear over it.
Okay, so there you go. So that's how the cane was made, and then after it was pulled out to the smaller diameter, chopped up into lots of small pieces, and those stars will be a decorative element on the piece. So looks like Josh is going to be using a couple of frits here. He's got a red and a blue, which is going to keep with the theme today. He'll be putting those in a bowl in a moment, or laying them out on the marver. It really is kind of immaterial which we do. Lots of times it has to do with how much glass we're gathering up. If we have a very large gather of glass that we're going to pick up frit on, we quite often will lay the frit out on the marver so that there's more surface exposed.
Nice.
So here's a cobalt blue right here with a very fine frit.
I wish these folks could be in here today and just
Feel the heat. Feel the heat. Yeah. We got 3 glory holes running. We got the pipe warmer over there, and of course the furnace.
Because all the heat just makes its way down this way.
And for the benefit of our viewers, we keep the door at the back closed so there's not a lot of bright sunlight coming in. So that fan there and the overhead air extraction system are really the only things removing heat. And that ain't a whole heck of a lot. So Josh has got some color in the annealer warming up. What do you got there, Josh?
That's a chunk of red.
A chunk of red. So we're going to make a blue one with a red trail on it.
A red trail, and then we'll pick up the
And then we'll do some stars. Okay. It's an all-star performance. Thank you, David Hogan. There we go. Yeah. All right. So if you're just joining us, our theme today is red, white, and blue and twirling glass. And
when you look away from the glass.
when you look away from the glass, yeah. Years ago, we were up in Corning. I was teaching a class, and there was a student that wanted some help. But she had a habit of looking away from the glory hole and the glass. And she was surprised when occasionally the glass would fall off center and get wound around itself. So I just simply explained that, well, the glass doesn't know when you're not looking, but it acts like it does. Okay, so he's straightened that out. He's got a bubble going to start here. There's a little bit of a seed in there, a bubble coming out. And the idea is to get this to go slowly and under control. There comes the bubble out. Now eventually it would stop blowing out. He's going to add a little more pressure and there it goes. As the glass cools, it stiffens and it becomes much more difficult for the bubble to expand. So Josh has now got his first bubble established. He had to let that glass cool off for a little bit. Oh, great, Barbara. Barbara's telling us she had the best time last week and thanks us. And Barbara, it was our pleasure to have you here in the studio. So Josh has got more glass this time, a much larger volume here. And just like the captain, or no, it was Roy Scheiber in Jaws said, you're going to need a bigger boat. Well, you're going to need a bigger block. And there he's got it. The cherry wood blocks are ideal for this. The fruit wood has a tight grain, and the blocks are cut fresh and shaped while the wood is green. And then they stay in water constantly. This keeps them from cracking. And now Josh is going to roll that gather of clear glass in the blue frit, and this is going to coat the outside. So you saw Foster pick up the little Tupperware tub of the rest of the blue glass and move it. That's because we can actually get close enough to it, and the heat that radiates from the pipe has occasionally melted our Tupperware trays. So we're real careful of that. So now he's going to get a little more blue in there. Mary Hallbecker says she's watching from Boulder. Well, thanks for joining us, Mary. All righty. Josh has got the blue coating on it, and right now Foster is heating up that little bit of red, which is going to provide the trail. Josh will get a more uniform shape here. Deborah's watching from Kansas City, Missouri. Well, hey, why don't you all check in? We know Joanna's watching us from London, and that's London in the UK, not London, Kentucky. Okay. Josh has got the glass shaped up nice and uniform. He's going to create a little more cylindrical shape to it with his jacks used like a straight edge on it. It's going to give him a little longer and smoother surface for the red trail. When Foster gets that heated up, he'll bring it over. Josh will take the iron.
5 more seconds. Right straight up and down.
Foster presents it pointing straight down, and Josh just starts doing a random roll on the bench. Notice it's not a real thick line of red, but it'll show very prominently. And as long as that glass is hot, it will adhere. And Jennifer, we're glad to have you here from Damascus, Maryland, right across town. Barbara's back in North Carolina, Kill Devil Hills, and yes, our standby from Forestville, David Hogan. Thank you all. Okay. So now that the red trail is on there, Josh will shape this up and form the piece. Good morning, Jim Yurden. Glad to have you with us. Okay. And from Watertown, New York, Jana. Hey, great, wonderful. Hey, we're getting a lot of response here. I started to say something about red trails in the sunset, but I think it's red sails. But anyway, Josh has now heated the glass. He's picking up the Murini. He's going to roll back and forth on those. And the stars have come out at the art of fire. The glass is hot enough, the Murini will adhere to it, it won't shatter, and what he'll do is melt those in now. If you got any questions about the processes or what's going on here, ask away. We'll either answer them truthfully or make something up, and we'd love to hear from you. Also, don't forget we have gift certificates available if you'd like to give someone the gift of glass. You can place orders online or by phone. Right now Josh is using the metal table we call the Marver to shape the glass, also to cool certain portions of it. Make sure that all those stars are melted in, and now he's going to blow, and he's not trapping the air. Notice he just kept the mouthpiece up to his mouth. The blow-in cap is that's the process of trapping the air. The blow-in cap is really great for getting a bubble started out. But once you've blown and capped the pipe, you've got no variation on pressure. This is your basic binaural situation. It's on or it's off. If you blow into the pipe, though, if you think you need a little more or a little less, you can take care of it. Using the folded newspaper to cool the glass, and then you'll blow again, and notice the expansion is toward the middle of the piece, the middle and down toward the bottom. Using the jacks, which are a pair of metal blades hinged together, it creates a constriction near the blowing iron. This will allow for separation of the piece from the blowpipe. Because who wants this piece with a 4.5-foot piece of steel attached, right? Okay, and most of our pieces are made by forming a sphere with a jack line or a neckline in it. And then what we do from there on depends on what the finished product should be. If we want to elongate it for a vase, we let gravity do its work, or perhaps centrifugal force by hanging it or swinging it. If we want to keep it short and squat, we can actually point it up in the air or push it back a little bit. So right now, Josh is going to blow out the form a little bit more. The heat is even throughout, and that's what allows it to expand across its entire length. He'll reinforce the neckline, but that also chills it a little bit. So you can imagine that's quite a small pivot point right there on the end of the iron. When he goes back into the glory hole to heat it up, he doesn't want it dancing around a lot there. So now he's got a nice sized sphere, blue with the red trail throughout. We're going to check out the various glass we make. Artoffire.com is our website. Got a full catalog on there. We've even got pieces on those. Well, you know, we're not too far from coming up to a year of these, because I think we started August 25th last year with the broadcast, and I'm sure there's pieces in that catalog you haven't seen us make here. So Josh is now heating the piece, but selectively, not the entire thing. You'll see the glow in the lower part. That's so he can apply centrifugal force. The heat, the gravity, and the force combined elongate it. When it does that, because of the weight distribution in the glass, particularly with the Murini and the trail, it can get a little bit misshapen, but a small puff of air straightens it out, and then he'll use hand tools to bring it back into line. So by using the newspaper, he gets a nice straight line on the body. The newspaper is 7 or 8 sheets of regular newsprint, probably the Washington Post in this case, since I brought the papers in today. How hot is it in the studio today, Mary asked. Oh, let's just see the faces. Yeah, Check with us in about an hour and a half and see how everybody's in the loop. Okay, so now Foster's bringing over a bit for what we call a cheater, or a button on the bottom. And that's to help ensure the integrity of the bottom of the vessel. If the piece is a little bit thin down there, or if we've got something going on with the piece where the color on the outside might get pulled off, which could happen in this case, we put a cheater on it, and that's for the punty attachment. Foster's making the punty right now. He's got a little bit of glass on the end of a solid iron, and he's going to shape that into more or less a cylinder and have a rounded point on it. He'll bring that over to Josh, who will place it in the center of the bottom. And you can see where that insurance bit, or cheater, is, right in the middle. Josh will be taking the iron from Foster, using a hand tool, probably his tweezers, to guide it right into the center. Now he'll turn it all, and if it looks like Foster's iron is not centered, or if it's bobbing up and down, the pressure of the tweezers on the pipe bring it right back to center. Now he's got to let it cool just a moment, a drip of water onto the neckline and vibration on the pipe, and it comes right off, and Foster heads to the glory hole with it. Now that punty joint is very hot right now. So he didn't even need to put the whole thing in there right away. He could wait for Josh to come over. And now we work on the upper reaches of the vessel. So to finish this base, Josh needs to heat the top. Keep in mind that was cold enough to fracture, so it's going to take a little while to reheat. You'll see him push the entire piece into the glory hole every once in a while. That's what we call a flash heat. And that ensures that the body temperature stays well above 1,000 degrees. So you'll see it go in and out like that. What do we got there? About 11 or 12 inches on that. Somebody was asked about the size. About 11 to 12 inches on the height of this base. Now, depending on the top treatment, how he opens it up, whether he folds the lip out in a flare, that may change. Again, that glass was cold enough to fracture. It takes a little while to reheat it and get it to the point we can work it. But the nice thing about this blue color on there is you can see where the heat is. The heat's where it's kind of orangey red. The blue part is a much lower temperature. Josh will use the jack blades to open the vessel up, and then when he raises his hand, it creates a flare in the lip. Foster uses the paddle to keep the lip flat and basically perpendicular to the central axis of the piece. The two of them working together give it a nice, beautiful shape, and there we go. So we've got the blue. The red's kind of hard to see right now. There's little stripes of it, but we got stars all over the place. Okay, beautiful piece. So Josh will be taking a reheat, and then that's it. Does the temperature of the room affect the glass? Not really, but the glass blowers, the glass blowers, it does, yeah. And the biggest source of the heat for us right now is this glory hole, okay? This glory hole is running at about 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit, and that entry point is also the exit point or the vent. So all the heat of that thing is blasting right out toward us. And we can show you what a glory hole looks like with one that's not on right now. It's basically just a ceramic chamber with a burner in it. It uses propane and forced air. Oh no, the room's not air conditioned. No, we're not miserable. We're just unhappy to begin with. That's how we live our life. No, we're not. We're very happy to be here. Josh has given the piece its final flashes. Foster is gloving up now, and they're going to break the piece off and put it away in the annealer. Okay, and we'll have pictures of it tomorrow for you to see online. A little tap of the pipe, and there we go into the annealer. So this is what our glory holes, how they're constructed. This is what the deal is with them, and they generate a heck of a lot of heat. Well, Iceland, we actually could do that. She's saying she wishes she could have a piece that had the blue coloring of the bottom and the orangish glow of the heated top before it cools off. So we can't actually give you the exact color, but we could do a color combination with a blue and either a deeper red or orangish color, which would approximate the look of color of the heated glass.
Okay.
Yeah, see? I mean, yeah, okay.
Let's do it.
Well, we'll come up with it. Okay, there you go. So anyway, that's the idea. So we'd have to pick out the color. We'd know the color for the bottom would be the cobalt blue.
Cobalt blue, and then like a flame, right? That it would transition to a reddish color, and then go into a yellow, right? Like
Oh yeah, we could do a full flame.
Yeah, full flame.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's glowing.
So there's some colors for your flame.
Come on up, right? Figured it'd be interesting since Bruce showed you the cane of Marini, kind of show you the process and how we cut it up.
Oh yeah, let's hold that edge on so we can see the stars.
I don't know if you can quite catch it on camera. See, Bruce might be able to handle it. If you can catch it.
Somewhere we got to hit the focal length. Well, look, you can see these ridges in it. That's where Josh created the indentations in what was round white glass. And we're not going to waste too much time, but somewhere here, hey, I think we might have it. You can probably see the star shape. At any rate, here's the piece of cane. This is a diamond saw.
And the nice thing about this diamond saw is you can't cut your finger off.
There you go.
So you gotta love that.
Yeah, but you better wear safety glasses because it could definitely fly up in your eye.
But what's cool about it is you can actually put your finger to the blade and it won't cut you. Let me try. But, you know.
Oh my God, Joyce Ferguson says Josh is the only star I see.
Oh, thanks, Joy. So we
And
just
that's with your brother from another mother in town. There we go. So there's the Murini, and that's how they get cut up.
So just a little bit of circular cut. And just slice it up. Now, yes, if you cut your nail to it, it will cut your nail, but otherwise your skin, it doesn't do anything.
Ooh. I guess I shouldn't bring my little dog over to trim her nails, though.
There you go.
That's going to elicit a response.
What do we got? We need about 8 of them. 4, 1 more.
Okay, so there we go with the star-shaped Murini. Is it just too hard to break into pieces? They're not too hard to break into pieces, but the piece size is extremely difficult to control.
Yeah.
If we were to chop them up with, say, a glass cutter, we would have some uneven edges, and
Right.
we would have some that would be taller than others, and it would be a little more difficult. Oh, Georgiana says you now need a bigger hat. He's not going to let it go to his head. Okay, so he's got the Murini cut up. Manicures of fire. Yeah, that's what we could do. I read an article this weekend that said last weekend that said that guys getting their nails done is a thing. You're gonna have your nails done, Josh?
I need to. Pretty rough.
Okay, so as we said in the opening, it's going to do a couple of these vases, and this one is going to have the red as the base color, and he's going to pick up the piece of blue right now. So he's got a very small amount of clear glass on the end of what we call a bit iron, or we sometimes call them putties or use them for putties, and it's usually just used for delivering bits of glass. So that's why we call it a bit iron. Really scientific stuff here, huh? All right, so he's picked up the piece of blue. He's going to melt that in. Well, actually, he's just going to put it up in the pipe warmer because the temperature there will be enough to keep it until it's time for Foster to reheat it and shape it up. He's got the irons ready to go. Got the stars lined up.
Now, you can see they were kind of a little clumped together. So this time I'm actually going to use a pie divider.
Aha!
Be a little more professional.
Okay, well,
Not like us.
I hope it's cherry or apple. Okay. So what he's doing right now is he's setting the distance between the pieces. So he'll just leave it there a moment. You can see the distance from the straight pieces going across, which then comes down to this end, which has been calibrated to give us the diameter of the piece, that when it's rolled 360 degrees starting at one end or the other, it will wind up getting an even distribution. So there's his pie divider. And absent a pie divider, it's entirely possible just to take a pair of calipers if you need it and pretty much divide it into thirds. Figure out what the thirds are, because we don't have to really get into the 3.14 thing. All right, so he's going to begin gathering just as he did on the last one. You got to look away.
What's that?
You got to look away. Okay.
Oh, yeah, let it run. I thought about that. I'm like, man, that's a lot of glass. If I look away this time,
Yeah.
it's going down.
Okay, so he's picked up a little more glass this time. He's using the cherry wood block. Notice the glass is still moving. He's going to stop momentarily for it. See how much that's moving around. And there's another hint right there for any of you that might be, I won't say novice glass blowers, but early in the process. If you let the glass get off center and you start turning, it accentuates the problem and makes it much, much worse. Look, that almost went up to 90 degrees. So he's still got enough heat that he's able to keep it under control.
And even letting it fall back on center, you can see it didn't go back to its proper shape.
So use the block again just to make sure that it's centered up. Hello, Ramiro. Welcome aboard. All right, you'll blow and cap, trapping the air in the blowpipe. There's still enough heat that that bubble comes right out into that mass of glass. Now, the last vase he made, he had less glass on the first gather. And if you recall, when he first did the blow and cap, after waiting a little while, the bubble didn't go quite as far out. That's because the smaller mass lost some heat and the bubble had to be reblown. This time, with the greater mass, there's more heat retained and the bubble comes out. But he's still at the same place. He's still got the bubble out in the piece of glass just like he did before. So part of being a good glass blower is knowing when something's a problem and when it's not. So on the last piece, when the glass folded a little bit, he knew it wasn't a problem. This time he knew it wasn't a problem to wait because he had plenty of heat. So now what he'll do is shape this up. And he'll start gathering the red. Mary Wampler's Hallbecker says, I just asked how hot it was, but I got the look. Your look when you turned around to the camera. It's warm in here today. I think it's about, I think at 11 a.m. it was already about 88 degrees. All right, so Josh is picking up the red just as he picked up the blue before. He'll get all the red he wants and heat that in. And then Foster will prepare the blue trail bit for him. Notice how the glass gets a little misshapen from rolling it in the bowl. The simple application of the block brings us right back around to the symmetry we want. And this measurement on the pie divider is going to be the diameter he wants. So you can see that ball is too large right now. But what he'll be able to do is blow this out and then change the shape. Good to see you, Keith, and goodbye to Rufus, too. All righty. Thanks for stopping by. Josh wants that cylindrical shape again. That's going to aid in the trail, but now he wants it to be the diameter of those calipers. So by pressing with the blades, he decreases the diameter. When he gets that to where he wants on it, Foster brings the bit and Josh starts the trail. So he can turn, as long as he keeps turning in the same direction. If he wanted truly random, he could go back and forth. But notice as he gets down a little further on the bench, he drags the bar back up, and there he goes. So right now I got the blue all over the red. You need to melt that in now. Okay, so he's going to get that melted in. He's going to get it straightened out. We're going to move this bowl aside, and then in a few moments, he's going to come over here and pick up the stars. So since he used the pie divider to determine the diameter he needs to get all the way across that row of stars, they should come out really even when he rolls across this time. And if any of them shouldn't pick up just because of a lack of heat, then he can go back and grab them. But let's see what happens. They're sticking. All of them are sticking. And look at that. They all came up and very evenly placed all the way around. We're going to have to call Josh the Anthony Fauci of the art of fire. Believe the science or the math. So that's how we can use a pie divider. We also use them when we're picking up sheets of cane. There's a lot of good uses for that. Now he's going to continue to marver to make sure that those stars are embedded in the glass. When he first picks them up, they still sit proud of the surface a little bit. They stand out just a tiny bit. Now he's got them in there, and he's going to start some air into it. And once again, we're going to create a sphere with a jack line in it. That's what the next several reheats will bring us. Rolling the tip or the bottom of the piece cools it off, and then when he blows, most of the inflation is above that point. He's got plenty of heat in all of it to use the metal blades of the jacks to cut a constriction. The shape of that constriction is really important. It needs to be compressed. It needs to be tight. It also needs to slope a little bit, because when the piece breaks free at the point of the transfer, there's a little bit of energy release. The glass kind of springs just a tiny bit. And if you don't cut the jack line tight enough, or you don't have the right shape to the shoulder on there, that springing action can actually cause it to fracture at that point. No, Steve, it wasn't the first time he did that. This is not his first rodeo. But now you get a really good look of how those stars are distributed through the piece. And because of the cobalt blue color on top, we can see the pattern a lot better right now with this heat. Okay. So here we've got a sphere with a jack line. It's time to work on a little bit of gravity, centrifugal force, and heat. Yeah, we're going to be open July and August this year. We're actually going to be here making product for what we've got our fingers crossed is going to be the Renaissance Fair this fall. So yeah, we're here. All right, so by heating the lower half of the vessel and spinning it around like that, you notice Josh's head was bobbing back and forth. That wasn't practicing to watch the matches at Wimbledon. That was to watch the piece as it spun around and to check the length of it to see how far it had gone. So he's got that done, and he's going to want a cheater. Now? Okay. A little more lengthening. Yes, Cindy, it is going to look amazing. Again, with the newspaper, the wet newspaper folded up, the perfect insulator allows us to get as close to actually grabbing the glass as we could without being foolish enough to do it. All right, so again, we're going to go with the cheater bit or a little button on the bottom. We use it for a couple of purposes. One of them would be is if we ever blew the bottom of a piece too thin, which Josh hasn't in this case. The other is if we have frit or color on the outside of the vessel that we don't want to get pulled off when we do the final release from the putty. So by putting this disc of clear glass right on the bottom where there is exposed red frit, you'll press that into the piece and then flatten it. The putty will attach to that. So if there is a little bit of glass that pulls away with the putty, it'll just be some of that clear right there, which we can polish off if it's sharp. So there we go with the flattened bottom, the cheater in place, and here comes Foster with the putty. We like to have kind of a curved shape on the end of the putty. That helps it break free later on. If it just goes on like a flat cylinder, sometimes it doesn't break off as well. Foster's shaping that. Josh is getting the final flattening on the bottom. Make sure everything's lined up. And then away we go. Josh places it and begins to turn. He's focusing not only on where it attached at the bottom, but the motion of Foster's iron. A little bit of water, and it breaks free with a tap. So the glass breaks by vibration. So when Josh tapped the iron with the back of his tweezers, the vibration traveled down the iron and onto the glass. The glass piece was cold, and it had also been chilled with water. So that became the weakest point on the glass, and that's where it broke, and that's what's intended. On the very few occasions where we lose one on the transfer, it's usually because that neck joint and the punty joint are just about the same temperature, and they both let go at the same time from the vibration. Another little trick for you glass blowers out there is, if you suspect something like that may happen, is to take a pair of jacks and squeeze the neckline as you tap the pipe. The jacks prevent the vibration from traveling down the piece to the bottom where the putty is. So there's an easy way out if you're concerned about either the neck being too thick or that the neck and the putty joint are equally weak. Again, just like before, he's got to heat that top up. It was cold enough to fracture. It'll take a little while to reheat. So he'll keep heating the lip in there, and we'll see the orange color. And what a beautiful distribution of the stars this time. He'll put the jacks in to round it out and begin to open it. Foster will come on with the paddle, and that flattens the lip. As Josh raises his hand, he gets the flare to the lip. And the two of them working together create the shape of the lip of the vessel. We've got the heat in it. So several of you have been commenting about how hot it is in here. Okay, so he's going to work the lip once more. We're going to come around this side. When Josh leans out with the jack, see how his hand was further over? That changes the flare, and now the steam cone blows it up. See how the shoulder is getting thicker or wider? That's because the wet cherry wood cone went in there, created steam, and blew the shoulders out for a much more polished shape. Alrighty. Now we got a beautiful shape going there. And we'll step over here and see what the thermometer might say about the room temperature, although it's really not a good indicator because it's on the back side of this post. But it's only looking like about 95 degrees, 96 degrees. I can guarantee you the perceived temperature of what we feel is a heck of a lot hotter than that. I'm going to guess that we're feeling it at about 105 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit in here now. So Josh will take his final flashes, and you can see with all these other glory holes open, Todd's over here working, Foster's glory hole is open, the furnace is getting opened regularly, and of course we've got the pipe warmer over there that we keep all the time when we're working. Somebody asked earlier, or maybe it was the other broadcast, about does the furnace run all the time? And yes, it does. But all these other pieces of equipment, that's only when we're actually making the glass. So they're ready to take this off now. And what Josh will do is put a little bit of water right on the putty joint and tap the iron. And again, the vibration will break this free at that weakest point. And there it goes. Okay. Oh. Okay, if we lose you, don't go anywhere. Last week we got down to 25%. Just now, the phone told me it's getting warm. So if the phone tells me it's getting warm, yeah, there's a message came up.
No, how's that possible?
Yeah, so anyway, the warning came up, and I'm going to stand back from the heat sources a little bit, and we'll see if we can't get this thing cooled off a little bit before we lose you again.
Well, at least you're moving up to the cooler side.
Yeah, we'll move on up here. So the beauty of this is the other end of the studio is cooler. Our Wi-Fi is a heck of a lot worse, and our cellular data even worse than that. So if I show you too much over here where the pieces are located, we're likely to lose you. Anyway, we've done the star vase in the blue and the red. We'll be getting a fan vase next. Who's doing the fan vase?
Foster.
Foster's going to do the fan vase. And as we said earlier today, it says phone is getting warm. Well, you know what? Let's just take a look at the gallery and maybe even wander outside for a minute. I don't know. Well, we can sweat like crazy, but the phone is all important, okay? So we'll come down here in the gallery and look around a little bit. Some of you may not have joined us a few weeks ago when we were actually on a broadcast with the Woodworkers Craft Fair. We've been doing some pieces where we incorporate glass into the wood. So we got that going on up here. And of course, we're encouraging the use of masks. And we'd like anybody that comes in to visit us or work to be vaccinated. We've got lots of pieces on display here. And what's up?
That's the giveaway. I don't know if we went over
Oh,
the
we
giveaway.
did not. This is the giveaway for this piece. Okay. So that'll be given away this week. And Patricia, I forget the last name right now, won the flask from last week. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to head back over this way. And this location here is actually a good bit cooler than the rest of the studio. So we'll see if this can satisfy our overheated phone here for a moment. So Foster's going to make a fan vase. When we get him back over here, we'll check into the colors and that sort of thing and what he's planning to do with it. Foster, what color is you going to use on the fan base? What color on the fan base?
Cobalt blue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have an order for actually two of them. One in cobalt blue and one in the copper ruby.
Okay.
But since I was working with blue already this morning, we'll go ahead and use the blue again. And I don't know if you know.
That's the giveaway this week.
Okay.
Josh brought it over just a minute ago.
All right.
Yep, we're good. Good on you.
So this is the new diamond ornament, or sun catch, if you will, that we're making now. That'll be featured out at the Maryland Renaissance Festival, as well as here in the studio. And this has got a white background with chips of black. It has an iridescent luster to it, and we hope that one of you will be the recipient of the diamond ornament.
Okay.
So, thank you very much.
Very good.
Good.
Excellent. Okay.
Good.
All righty. So is this going to be a luster finish also?
Luster finish.
Okay.
Okay. So, if you didn't see the first half hour this morning from 10:30 until 11, you can watch it here coming up to the lunch hour on the East Coast, U.S. time.
Okay. Great. All right. So Foster's going to do cobalt blue luster. And the luster refers to the finish on the glass. So could you make one a bit smaller, 8 to 10 inches? If you're referring to the vases Josh just made, yes, they could be made to different sizes. Anyway, back to the blue luster. Foster is going to pick up a piece of cobalt blue glass. Aha! Somebody calls their gift the amazing vase. Yeah, like the amazing race. Yeah, I like that one. That's really good. Okay. So anyway, back to the luster finish. Foster will start with a core of cobalt blue glass. He'll be picking this up out of the annealer. It's already preheated to about 900 degrees, and he'll melt it in the glory hole a little further so that he can shape it. After he's gathered up all the clear glass he needs on top of that for the volume of the vessel, he will run it through this gold frit over here. And after he runs it through the gold frit, Josh will bring him a trail of clear glass which will go through it. The bird song noise is actually the phone chirping. So just about every 5 to 10 seconds, the phone is chirping and saying that your phone is getting too hot and it may shut down some functions while it cools. So I'm trying to stay back, okay? Yeah, the phone is doing the commenting. The chirping occurs every time the phone says, "Get me out of the heat." Hey, it's fun. There it was again, just got another one. So I'm hoping that if they become more and more frequent, that doesn't mean we're getting closer to shutdown. But we're going to sit back here away from the action a little bit. We'll still get you a good view as we can and see what happens. And by the way, if you lose us, don't worry, just stick around because we'll get another phone and get going. We've had enough problems with this over time. We're getting quite adept at changing phones or doing different things in the process. I'm starting to see the picture flicker a little bit. Do you see that on the monitor, Theta? Every once in a while, it just starts to flicker a little. Oh, there's the bird chirp, and there's the warning. Phone is getting warm. Some features limited while it cools down. It's obviously not doing a great job of cooling down, but then neither are we. Okay, so Foster's over there at the glory hole. We're not going to get any closer because it's hot. But he's melting a piece of cobalt blue on the end of the blowing iron.
Am I supposed to chirp when I get hot?
Yeah, you do that. Yeah. That would be great.
Come on, Bruce, you got to have a follow-up joke to that. Please.
I don't want to get in trouble. The lady with the young kids might be out there. Okay, so Foster's getting that blue fairly hot. He's going to come over to the marver and roll it on the marver to shape it. By angling it down, he makes sure that the glass is in contact with the table. Pushing it onto the table like that cools it off a little bit. And now he'll blow and trap the air in the blowpipe. And the air comes out, rounds the glass out from that conical shape. And that's how he knows that he trapped an air bubble inside. Now all he needs to do is let that cool a bit until the point that he can gather. He's going to hang the iron up, go get a cup of coffee, maybe a donut. How about an iced coffee, Foster?
Sounds pretty good right now.
Okay.
What?
How about an iced coffee? I thought, oh, yeah. Got the sweatband.
This is when you know he's getting serious.
This is getting serious.
This is his kung fu.
No, you know when it gets serious? When I first started blowing glass, I cut the band from a pair of Fruit of the Loom and doubled that up, and that was my sweatband. My kids and my wife will never let me forget that. I don't think there's any pictures, though. Okay, Foster's let the glass cool. He's going to gather now. There was our bird chirp. Interestingly enough, I've heard a lot of bird chirping the last few days. Our son is visiting from Portland, Oregon, and he knows quite a bit about birds. So he spotted 4 red-tailed hawks And then today, he said we also have either a kestrel or a peregrine falcon, which are all birds of prey. So that's going to restrict our little Chihuahua's outdoor time severely, because we don't want her to be dinner for one of the other critters. Okay, now that he's got the glass uniformly heated, he's going to take a cherry wood block and shape the glass. The cup is from cut green wood. It's shaped and then it's always kept in water. This keeps it from cracking. And by shaping it with that, he gets a nice uniform shape, which helps with the symmetry of the piece. It also gives it a little stability on the outside, and then he'll blow into that and create a slightly larger bubble. He traps the air inside, and you can probably see the bubble expand even from this distance. Sorry we can't get closer right now. We're just trying to keep going on this camera. Now the glass is cooled off a little bit. Foster will go down and take another gather. I'm just wondering if maybe we could change this bird chirp to like a foghorn or something. That'd be kind of cool. All right, Foster's got substantially more glass now. He's headed back our way, and he's headed directly for the frit. By tapping the glass into frit, it adheres to the gather he just got. And because the frit is so fine, it'll stick without any problem, doesn't need any preheating. And then after he gets that gathered, he'll signal to Josh. And if he doesn't catch the signal, he'll say, "Hey, Josh, go get my bit." Foster's got all the gold on there he needs. He's going to reshape it just a bit, round it out some. And now the idea is to put a random trail on the glass. So Foster takes it and begins winding it onto the glass. You'll notice that Foster's is a different kind of random trail. He's going back and forth with the iron. It makes no difference, whereas Josh turned only in one direction. And if one pair of shears falls on the floor, hey, grab another. Okay, so now that clear trail will cause the gold to separate. He didn't heat that gold after applying it to the piece. It was just laying on the surface. Now, some of it was sticking for sure because of the intense heat of the glass. But what was right up on the top of the surface could be pushed aside, and that's what that clear glass did. So now Foster has the trail. Change it to Woody Woodpecker. Hey, now that would be a good side for the song for the phone to play. I like that, David. Okay. The clear on there is going to allow the cobalt blue color to come through. Now, when he comes back, you can't even see the gold. That's because when it's really hot, it kind of goes to a transparent color. And we'll see it again in a few moments. Right now, he's using a larger block just to, again, get the symmetry and also to chill the outside and stabilize the piece. Back for another heat, then he'll do a little more shaping. He'll begin to blow this out some and work on the jack line. So our bird whistles seem to be getting a little fewer and further between, so perhaps the phone is getting happier. Maybe we'll still stay away from things for a moment to make sure we don't overheat it. It's going to roll the piece on the marver, but primarily the tip or the bottom of the vessel. That cools it there, and then when he blows, it won't expand there so much. So now he's going to blow. Well, he made a liar out of me. There came the bird whistle. Now blowing, you can see that there's still a reservoir of hot clear glass in the bottom. That's because he cooled it, all right? One of the things about the glory hole is it heats all the glass. When you put the whole piece in there, it gets heated through 360 degrees for its entire length. So if you want a portion of it to be colder than the rest, you have to take care of that. And he did with the marver by cooling the bottom. You can see the taper toward the bottom of the piece. That's the outboard section there. And now he's cutting with the jack blades for his constriction at the blowing arm. He's still got a lot of clear glass down in the bottom, and he can blow. When he brings it up toward horizontal, it becomes more spherical. So actually the angle we hold the pipe is very important. Again, cooling the bottom. He's going to work that jack line down a little tighter. Now the jack line, as we said before, has to be constricted a good bit. If you saw that flash of light, no, that was not the green flash at sunrise. That was some wax on the jacks getting heated and burning. Okay, so now he's going to heat that sphere. If he wants any larger diameter, he'll come out and blow, or more likely he'll start to lengthen that sphere. Now we want a larger diameter here than what the finished product will be, because as we lengthen it, it's going to get more narrow. You'll still be able to blow it out some, but blowing very late in the process sometimes gets the glass too thin. Notice how he just points it down and gives it a gentle swing at first. He'll get enthusiastic here in a moment. Notice how it's still a nice gentle swing with a pause. Now it's a little more intense. The glass is cooled off. It's not moving quite as much, and he can apply a little bit of air to it. Seems pretty obvious that when it first comes out of the glory hole, it's the hottest, and since we all know that hot glass moves and cold glass don't, if we get a little exuberant at that point, it might stretch out too far. But not in this case. Nicely under control, still beautifully shaped, and Foster is checking the length with his calipers. He can use the jack blades like a straight edge to straighten the sides, keep a nice cylindrical shape to it. And in just a few moments, Joshua will take the piece for a flash, and Foster will gather up glass for the foot. All right, Todd's going to take the flash for him. And the flashing, the goal here is to keep the glass above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even a little bit more than that. We don't want it hot enough to deform and change the beautiful shape Foster's made, but if we let it get down to too low a temperature, it'll crack. Foster's going to take a couple of gathers over there, and when he takes the last gather, Todd will take the last flash and then pass behind him as he comes to the bench. Foster's going to cut a little jack line in the glass. And we're still going to stay right here so we don't get too close to the heat. But we've got a good view. Foster will bring it up, drop it on the bottom of the base, and clip it free. After he sits down, Todd will present the piece to him at the bench. And Foster takes a pair of boards which are hinged together with a piece of fabric. He flattens it against the body, and now watch, he pinches it between the two boards. And this is what gives him that delicate edge, that nice shape on the foot. It thins the glass out, and then he'll take another flash after that and finish the shaping of the foot. Right now it's kind of like a top hat. It just comes out flat like a brim. Okay? So he's got a special tool over here, a carbon paddle, and it's tapered on one edge. So one side of it he can use to flatten the foot. We will get right up here, but not too close so you can see this. He's going to take the flattened edge and flatten the foot so it'll sit flat. But now he turns it over, and on that curved profile, he gets that beautiful taper as that dome of the foot moves downward. Once again, to flatten it, and Todd's in the background over there creating the punty. Foster will take a flash, and then they'll punty this up. Foster gets the flashes on here just to keep it warm. Todd's got the punty shaped, and he's reheated it just a tad. Foster will take the punty from Todd and place it in the middle. If the alignment's not quite what he wants, as he rolls the pieces, his downward pressure on the tweezers will get it centered, and then he'll put a little bit of water onto that jack line and tap the piece. Notice the orange glow in the punty. There's still heat there. If we took too long and that got dark, that might break because it would be cold. So there's another clue for whether our transfer is going to be successful or not, is the presence of heat in the punty. And that was a successful one. Well done. And now Foster will heat the upper reaches of this vase. This is a fan vase, so it's a particular shape, and he'll be opening this up and then flaring it out into a fan. And then on top of that, we'll get the luster finish when he goes ahead and uses the torch on it. So we did a luster piece during our YouTube broadcast, which we did between 10:30 and 11 Eastern Time today. So if you didn't watch that presentation, we'll give you a quick explanation of what's going to happen with that. Remember, we had this gold frit around the outside of the glass, and we trailed the clear through it to separate it. This gold frit is what's called a reducing color. And reducing typically has to do with the status of a flame or the flame source. And if it's starved for oxygen or is searching for oxygen, we call that a reduction flame. If we went the opposite way, it'd be oxidizing. You can see Foster has the heat concentrated in the upper reaches of the vessel, and he's going to start to open this up. He'll probably get this pretty close to a cylindrical shape before he makes the fan flare fanfare. Yeah, we need a song for that, David. And since today's theme is red, white, and blue, and we're getting all patriotic, it's time for a little musical interlude based on the Star-Spangled Banner. Be kind to your web-footed friends, for that duck may be somebody's mother. You can finish the rest of it. Todd and I were joking around about these songs earlier, and it's amazing what comes back from your childhood. Hey, it could be worse. All right, so now he's going to steam that up a little more. He's going to open this. He's got quite a taper up at the top. That's where the fan will be formed. He's going to need to open that lip out to where it's almost not curled over at all, and then he'll begin to create the fan. Use the newspaper there for just a moment to cool it. Okay, so I got distracted by a little bit of music and a little bit of glass blowing, and I didn't finish up with the reduction. So the reduction is going to happen when we put a flame, which will be from this torch over here, which is just a propane torch. And that flame is starved for oxygen. And what it will do when it encounters that gold reducing glass is it will try to steal the oxygen from the glass, and we'll get a lustrous finish on it. Thank you, Joyce. All right, so you can see how he's got quite the flare on there. Now, we're going to come on over here and risk the heat. This is how the fan vase goes. See, the blades are separated a bit, and that gives him the shape he wants. And then he can bring that along the side of the vessel and flatten it out some. So that's how Foster gets the fan vase shape. Oh, that's a good one. David Hogan says it's reduction.
What?
Reduction. All right. We're in the spirit. Okay. So what Foster will do is, after getting a good flash on this, if he's finished the form of the piece, he'll come on over and they're going to torch it. He's not done with the shape yet. He's getting a little more flare to it, a little more fan, and he'll straighten the sides, bring the blades along the outside, give a nice squared up shape to it, and then he'll go for the heat. Okay, so there's our reduction, there's our luster finish. We'll have better photos tomorrow online. So now it's going to be some flashing just to make sure there's a nice even heat in the glass, and Foster will come over to break it off the putty and put it away. First he'll take a small butter knife and chip around the putty joint. He's not trying to break it free. It would obviously hit the floor. What he will do is hand Todd the pipe, take that hammer handle, and while he holds the piece in his gloved hand, he'll hit the pipe. Oh, and we froze for a moment, and it will break free, and there it goes, and into the annealer with it. Yeah, the color finish is going to be a lot better, Angela. Yeah. So let's hear it for Foster, folks. It's quite an amazing feat. All right, way to go. Okay, so that was the fan base with a luster finish. All right, well done. And everybody is anxious to see it out tomorrow. Okay.
And we'll take images and
Yep, we'll be posting some pictures. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. Looks like it's time for a patriotic Pilsner. Who wouldn't want to have a little bit of liquid refreshment for the holiday? Well, you know, there's enough of you saying bravo, Foster, and we love it, and it's awesome, that I got to believe our picture is still holding up, and you're getting the broadcast A-OK. So maybe we have to stand back a little bit for the remainder, but at least we've got it going. Hey, Foster.
Yes, sir.
Since I don't want to get too close over there to the heat, would you tell me what colors Todd is using? Or,
Brown, and we're going to get in, it's a coral red.
coral red.
We're going to drop over a gather of clear glass. We're going to do an overlay.
Okay, all right.
And then it's got some blue, I believe you said.
Put a white powder on the outer surface, and we'll do a blue wrap around that.
Okay.
Crackle patterns around.
All right. So you've heard it. We're going to have a crackle finish. We're going to have some red, white, and blue. You're going to get to see an overlay. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. Glad to know we're coming through. Yeah, there's always going to be a little buffering or bumping around, but we'll get you as many close shots as we can, but we'll get the whole process shown and explained. Right now, Todd is taking the piece of glass. It's a red glass, coral red, and that's going to be the piece for the overlay. So what he's doing right now is heating it and shaping it on the end of an iron, okay? Todd, in the meantime, will be gathering up some glass that this will be overlaid on, okay? So when we do an overlay, we have a piece that's usually on a blowing iron, typically with a bubble started in it. And then we bring the glass for the overlay and let that drape on and then roll it down. So that might not make a whole heck of a lot of sense, but you know what to look for now. And we'll explain it as it goes along. It's getting pretty hot in here. It's a pretty warm day. My bird's chirping at me again. I guess maybe I better back off a little bit. We'll move in for the important parts. In the meantime, if any of the others of you have any requests or would like to know about a piece of glass or perhaps order one, somebody early in the broadcast had asked if they couldn't get a vase that might have the pretty blue color that Josh had in the bottom of the vase, but with something that looked like the orange that was in it when it was heated. So, of course, we can't preserve the heat in the glass and give you glass that's 1900 or 2000 degrees for that pretty orange, but we should be able to come up with some other colors that would substitute for that. So if you got ideas for something you'd like that, let us know. artofire.com or 301-253-6642 gets it done. Actually, Cheryl, I have a cooling pack on the back of the phone. There's a company that sells gel packs. So Todd has the clear glass, and he's got that on the end of his blowing iron. Foster's heating this up, and they're looking toward each other to see if it needs any marvering. Todd has shears in his hand, and we'll watch this application of the overlay. So it goes on. Todd pulls it up a little bit and clips it off. And he'll try to conserve as much of the red as he can. And there it is, a dollop of red on the top. Now he'll flatten that a little bit and go right into the heat. He wants that hot enough so that he can then roll it over the clear bubble. So that's what I was talking about, rolling it over. And it's pretty much like rolling on a pair of socks or something. So imagine the socks are on your foot. Now he'll roll, push into the iron, and see how the glass comes down over the clear. Okay. So that's how he does the overlay. Now, if he needs any more stretching or smoothing on that, he can always come back to the marver and push it a little further. You'll notice he pushes into the marver. He starts at the edge and goes across the marver. That forces that color glass down over the clear bubble. And what this will also do is allow him to have clear glass on the interior of his vessel. Lots of times the colored glass gets a little bit tacky or sticky, and if you're opening a Pilsner glass, you want your jacks to move smoothly on the inside of the glass. And if it were sticky, it'd be hard to do. So by having that clear right in the inside of it, that's what it'll work against.
The red being as stiff as it is, sometimes it's good to have an interior bubble of clear to allow the glass, that red will sort of inflate a little more evenly. That way we don't have hot spots or cold spots in the red sort of acting independently on the way the bubble comes out.
There you go. So we refer to soft colors, stiff colors, things like that. It has to do pretty much with the metal oxides that are used to color the glass, and some of them are very resistant to accepting heat, and they lose heat very quickly. And those we call stiff. They're hard to get moving. Colors like this red, perhaps an opal white, a lot of the opal colors are like that. Some colors, like our transparent blues and greens, are very soft. The metal oxides they're made with accept heat very rapidly and then lose it a lot more slowly. so they stay hotter longer. So it would make it very tricky to make, let's say, an encalmo piece that includes both a very stiff color and a very soft color, like black and white. That's a really tough combination to work with. Black's a very soft color, white's a very stiff color, and between the two of them, they don't want to heat evenly. Okay, enough of that. Todd's got the cherry wood block. He's blocking the color down, and he's got that red interior in there covered up, and Foster's going to take a bit of blue. So we're still with our red, white, and blue theme. Foster's going to melt that in his glory hole and shape it up. And I'm already over here between the two glory holes, and we're going to be a little hot in a moment. So let's just back off so we can show you the rest of this beautiful Pilsner. We'll come over here where it's cool. We'll move in when it's time to really see something. Todd's getting the shaping of the glass. He's got a layer of clear over top of that. He'll come back to this in a few moments. Foster will deliver the bit, and we'll have the blue trail on it. Important for the glass blowers to communicate with each other as to what they want, like whether they want the bit delivered pointing straight down, whether they want it delivered from behind, how they would like it done. A little more clear glass on the outside. And Foster's back to his marver now to shape this bit of glass. And in the meantime, Todd has gathered yet another gather of clear. He's going to come over here and dip it in the white. By turning the iron and tapping it into the bowl, he's picking up that very fine white frit and will cover the entire piece. So we've got our red and our white. Foster's going to be delivering the blue. And we'll continue with this 4th of July theme here in a moment. Foster is casing the blue glass right now. I want to get a shot of this when he comes to his bench. So if we just use the blue straight up, it would do what we call bleeding. You've probably experienced that, say, in laundry, where colors bleed, they spread out. Well, this blue being a very soft color, if it's applied directly to the Pilsner glass Todd's making, it could bleed and spread out. And he wants more control of that line of blue. So by encasing it in clear, he's going to snip the end of that off, then he's going to marver it and heat it. So there'll actually be a little bit of clear glass in between the blue trail and the body of the piece. Todd's still at it over here. He's got the last of his white. He's going to marver the piece, get his kind of cylindrical shape going there. Foster's was a little misshapen because of all the manipulation he had to do. So he may come back and marver. It depends on whether Todd's ready right now. More than likely, he'll marver it a little bit, and that coating of clear on top of the blue is going to keep the blue from bleeding out as it's heated on the body. So the trail, the stripe, if you will stay more compact. We don't always have to do that, but there's some applications where we really need that to stay tight. Notice how he's tapering that to a conical shape. Then he's going to heat the living daylights out of it. And we'll go over here behind Todd's bench and try to get oh, this is going to be with the threader. Okay, not a random trail. This is going to be cool. So we got these wheels on this bar here, and when Todd turns the iron travels toward the wall. The wheels are set on at an eccentric. They're not in line with perpendicular. Foster brings it up, they place it. Todd starts turning, and as Todd keeps turning, you can see the thread going on. And he's going to keep going with this until they're done with it. And as Todd turns it right there, you can see the glass travels down the bench, and there we go. And it doesn't want to let go, but it will in a moment. There we go. Okay, so that's threading. Okay, so we can put trails on several different ways. Oh, we've got the bird call again. The phone's getting warm. So you saw Josh put some trails on earlier that were done by turning the pipe in one direction and keeping the trail going all one way. Foster did the random trail on his fan vase where he went both directions. He turned back and forth with the iron and got much more of a random distribution. And what Todd's done here with the threading gives you the most compact and, I guess, least random that you can get. So there we go. 3 ways to put trails on. Todd's going to heat that up right now and get that all melted in. And again, since that blue did not have anything extra put over it, there goes the crackle process in the bucket of water. Notice he's holding it there. And now what will happen is you might even wind up doing that a couple times. We're going to risk getting a little bit closer because of the heat here, but the crackle will cause the glass to spread. And when it does and he blows, that red interior will become more visible. You can see some of the cracks right now. They'll become much more visible as he blows it out. There, you can see kind of ripples in it. The chirping noise you hear is the phone warning me that it's getting too hot and I should back away from the heat, or it's just going to shut off. Right now it says some functions may be unavailable. So if it goes completely dark, we stopped functioning altogether. But we're going to stand back here and hope that we can get through this before the phone shuts down, because this is a really cool piece. So we put the crackles into it, and the more he blows, the more those lines will separate. So the red is the interior, the white was gathered as frit around the entire gather, and then a blue trail. The blue trail is not going to go anywhere. What's going to happen with this is the white is going to separate at each of those cracks, and the red is going to start to show through. Yeah, it does kind of remind me of Angry Birds, David. So we're going to take one last hot shot here, just so you can see the cracks. Oh wow, it's really blatant now.
So what we got is a red underneath, a white on the surface, and a little blue threaded trail in tribute to Benjamin Moore. It's a very feeble tribute on my part.
Hey!
It's one of the things that he had done.
It's beautiful. And everywhere that those cracks are appearing in the white, that's where the red's going to show through. Now, as we mentioned before on a lot of these pieces, anytime that we're going to elongate this sphere of glass, we need to inflate it to a larger diameter than what we want for our finished product. As we elongate it, that elongation steals from the diameter. So the ball that he uses to drop is going to be a lot wider than the finished Pilsner. I think we're going to leave that one alone, David. All right, so Todd's going to shape it a little bit. He'll put a little more air into it here in a few moments, and he'll keep adding heat to it. There he goes with a little bit of air. So you might have noticed, sorry from this distance that you couldn't see it, but because of the cracks in the surface of the glass, and because of the way it was swinging out, it had a couple of little flat spots in it, which he solved by using the paper to shape it, and then after that, he blew into it just a little bit. But try not to blow too late in the process. If you blow late in the process, you risk blowing the bottom of the piece out. That's why we usually do our blowing when we first come back with the heat. Right now he's doing what's called a moil wrap. Foster has the piece on the rail, on the yoke, and Todd put a little clear glass around the glass that's on the blowpipe. The moil, as you may or may not know, is the remainder. Okay? So that's what stays on the pipe after all the cutting's done. And if I got to tell you any more than that, we'll just forget about it right now, where the term comes from. Anyway, Todd now is gathering glass up for a foot. He's going to do his a little bit differently than Foster did. Foster's going to point it straight up, and actually he's got the same thing. He does have the footboards over there. Todd will deliver the glass to the top of the piece and cut it off. Well, Todd's going to give that another flash just to make sure the body stays hot. This is a fairly long piece here. He's going to get that foot nice and hot, and then he'll use, I think David Hogan got it. Okay, he'll use the footboards first to flatten the piece of glass, and then to spread them, and that's it. He's squeezing it right there, squeezing that down to a nice line. And Todd will probably use his jacks to straighten this out some. And he's got a small propane torch there. So every once in a while, if we think that the neck might be getting a little too cold, rather than put a whole long piece like that in the glory hole, we can spot heat the neck. So Todd will have to finish shaping the foot, and the foot will be very hot, so he can afford to let it sit there for a bit. So he'll use the tool to shape the foot. He's using the jacks to lean out and create that conical foot. But then before he goes back, he'll take the propane torch and heat the neck. He'll do the transfer attachment first, but before he breaks it free, yeah, it does look kind of like a barber pole. And there he goes with the propane torch. Now that's heating the neck area so that it's not too cold when he goes ahead and breaks that free. And if you can see from here, in the upper reaches of the piece, it's not quite round, but that's okay because he's going to round that out as he finishes the piece up. A little drop of water, and it breaks free, and into the glory hole. Foster puts the top of the piece in there. See how it's still dancing around a little bit? That's because that putty joint is still very hot. Todd will take the piece, and then as the top heats, he'll begin to flash the entire body, just to get a little more heat in there. The glass at the top of the piece was cold enough to fracture. It takes a little while to reheat. Yeah, I'm sorry about the distance here, Joanna, that you'd need binoculars. It's just that this phone is getting a little overheated, and I'm afraid if we get too close to it, we won't be able to keep going. So I'm hoping that discretion is the better part of close-ups. Before the piece gets put away, we'll go in for a little closer shot to see the colors, and as they're arriving in it. You're going to see more and more of that as he keeps heating and opening it up. We'll put the jacks into the opening. When he's ready, he'll have Foster paddle the lip to get it flattened. And there's the red interior. And there's some red showing through the cracks in the white. Actually, David, I kind of expected you to say there is no discretion in this studio, but thank you. All right, so here we go, and it is a ruffled vase. I had that wrong, and there we go. All right.
All right, so we got a blue stripe, a white background, and a red interior. It sort of climbs up and bursts like a firework.
There we go. All righty. Beautiful vase. Beautiful vase. Red, white, and blue. There we go. And yeah, the close-up pictures will be there for you tomorrow. Todd takes his final flash. Now, by hanging it down like that, if it is starting to flare out a little too more, he's able to reintroduce the flare. He'll put a little drop of water on the joint between the putty and the foot. Then when he taps it, it'll come free in Foster's gloved hands. And away it goes. So that one, battery may run out soon. Battery on battery saver. Well, it looks like we made it to the end and didn't lose the picture. So I'd say that's a very successful broadcast. Let's hear it for Todd. Thank you, Todd. Everybody loves it. Can't wait to see it tomorrow. And thanks to Foster and Josh, who has made like Elvis again and left the building. But he'll be back. Foster will be back. Theta and Todd and I will be back. Hope you'll be back with us next week. So thanks for joining us. And for all of you that celebrate, have a happy